other than in Holmby Hills to meet President Obama. We have a great lineup for you. And before I get started, I do want to recognize some very special people in the audience. We have the former chair of the Federation of Indian Associations, Anju Garg. Would you stand up for a moment? Okay. Thank you for being here. We have a number of other special people that I maybe will wait until the end to introduce some of the others who are in the audience today. But I wanted to get started right away. And how many of you watched the Super Bowl? Okay. Oh, wow. In an Indian audience, I wouldn't expect that many hands being raised. Okay. What did you think of the Teleflora commercial? No, don't tell me you don't remember that one. Right? Give and you shall receive with the supermodel. Okay. The commercial was promoting flowers for Valentine's Day, of course, and the company that was represented, Teleflora, is owned by Roll Global, the same company that owns Paramount Farms, and today we'll be talking about pistachios and the effect of pistachios on the Indian market, California-grown pistachios on the Indian market. I'm fortunate enough to have met Mark Masten about 7 years ago. Mark is the Vice President of Global Sales and Marketing for Paramount Farms International. He was an executive at General Electric for many years and spent some time in India, and then came on board here in Southern California with Stuart Resnick's company, Roll International and Paramount Farms in particular, with the responsibility of growing pistachio sales worldwide. During his tenure, sales have gone up by over 300%. And this is worldwide. He travels all over the world. I almost never speak to him in the same country twice. But one of the interesting success stories is really about what they have done in Asia, in China, and then in particular in India. And that's what we are going to hear about today. Mark is an engineer by training, and I think all of our speakers today, in fact, are engineers. That's one thing that unites them. Also, I think the other thing that unites them, since this is the Indus Entrepreneur, and we are talking about entrepreneurship, I think you will see with each of our speakers today that they have been leaders. They have not been afraid to take risks. They have not been afraid to do something new and different within their companies and sometimes within their industries. That's really what it takes to be a leader, and our later speaker is actually going to talk about leadership in particular. So I was in Washington, D.C. about 4 or 5 years ago with an organization called the American Society of Engineers of Indian Origin. And I went to a few social events, and at each event people asked me a very interesting question. This was the talk of the town in Washington, D.C. at that time. And people asked me, who is the second biggest nut in Washington? That was actually a Paramount Farms PR campaign. Now you can guess who the biggest nut is or might have been, okay? But it really became the currency of language for a little while in Washington. Now I'm going to ask Mark to come on up and speak to us for a few minutes. Mark is being very generous with his time. He also lost his voice yesterday. So please be tolerant as he tries to speak to this group. We have the volume turned up and I hope you can all hear him. I will interject if necessary at some point.
Thank you, Gunjan. I find if I can find the right tone, I think I can speak. That was a very kind introduction. Hopefully everybody can hear me. I know we don't sound like this. Yeah, that's the right tone. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. Gunjan, that's a great introduction because it's a pleasure to meet all of you entrepreneurs here. I am not the entrepreneur. The guy I work for is the entrepreneur. He's the billionaire. I'm just a worker guy there. But I will go through a presentation and talk about our company and what we've done in India. And I had the good fortune of working with Gunjan about 6 years ago, and he helped me get back into India. I was in India with GE, working with the Godrej joint venture back in 1995 through 97, which is just when India was really going through the liberalization process with Manmohan Singh as the finance minister. So it was a great experience for me. And I always figured in the nut business I would go back to India and check out the opportunities. So just to further introduce our company, hold on, finding my voice, this is good. The name of the company is Roll Global, but you probably know it better by some of our brands. And Gunjan mentioned the Teleflora ad. Apparently it didn't appear too memorable until you prompted people to remember the supermodel and give and you shall receive. But I think it was a pretty successful ad. And I think if you think about our company, we're really a marketing company that happens to also be pretty big farmers that I'll explain in a second. But if you've heard of the Palm Wonderful juice and fresh pomegranates, that's basically us for our company. The Cuties citrus, the little mandarin oranges, mandarins and clementines, and of course Teleflora and Fiji Water is one of our other companies. And basically the company is owned by Stuart and Linda Resnick. They're based in Beverly Hills. And as you can imagine, they're incredibly wealthy, but they didn't start with wealth. Stuart actually moved to Los Angeles from New Jersey, went to UCLA, and he's 70-some years old today, and still extremely active in the business. He happens to be in Aspen this week. I'll call it relaxing. Relaxing for him is snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, and being on teleconferences with us. But that's the Resnicks, and I think that's why they're successful. This is just a quick shot that people don't always think about the Central Valley of California, but it's where 70% of the produce comes in the U.S. from the Central Valley of California, and it's really fertile nut growing area. So if you think about almonds, walnuts, and pistachios, those come from the Central Valley of California as well as other parts of the world. But that kind of Mediterranean climate in the Central Valley is perfect growing conditions for pistachios. As Paramount Farms, we own about 110,000 acres in total. About 75,000 acres is dedicated to pistachios and almonds. So hopefully these are some of the brands you may recognize. Gunjan convinced me to pass out some pistachios tonight. Those packages are about $5 retail, so hopefully it's pretty good. I snuck those out today. But anyway, I would hope that maybe some of you have seen our television ads too. The theme is Get Crackin', and we've used some novel celebrities like the Winklevoss twins. Those are the guys that lost in Facebook. It's also, we use an online kind of character called Keyboard Cat, and all sorts of novel characters. We've used Snooky. If you don't know who that is, ask your son or daughter. I'm sure they can explain that. But the whole idea is to grab your attention and talk about how people crack their pistachios open. That's kind of our unique selling proposition, if you will. The other product, the Everybody's Nuts, Gunjan referred to a billboard that we bought a few years ago back in Washington, D.C., the second biggest nut in D.C. And then Almond Accents is one of our other products. So when I went back to India 5 years ago, one of the things that caught my eye is the size of the almond market that we export here from California versus the size of the pista market. And at that point in time, I'm thinking to myself, why are almonds so popular? Of course, we know that if you're from the northern part of India, you soak the almonds in water overnight and you remove the skin. The next morning you consume, 4 or 5 almonds. With pistachios, not the same tradition exists. Of course, it's known as a Diwali gift, It's also known as an expensive item, and I think it's just less well known as a healthy snack. So really that's now our challenge or our opportunity in India, is to get that word out that in fact pistachios are a healthy snack and are affordable. So one of the things we did is we enlisted the help of the U.S.-India Business Council as well as the U.S. Embassy in India in terms of talking to the Indian government about reducing duties on pistachios. It was kind of interesting for me when I met with some of the Indian officials. They thought they grew pistachios in India, and sure enough they don't grow pistachios in India. They come from Iran or California, and we were able through a couple year, 2 to 3 year effort to convince the Indian government to reduce the duties on pistachios and simply make them more affordable and considered less of a luxury item. And by the way, some people thought we bribed somebody. We didn't bribe anybody. And I'm sorry that I had to mention that. This just gives a little kind of a quick overview of where we are. Our main office is in Delhi. Our plant, kind of a pilot plant, is in Gujarat and Vadodara, with sales offices in Mumbai, Bangalore, and Calcutta. And I would hope as you travel back to India, which I'm sure everyone does here, that as you visit retail outlets there, you're going to see our pistachios and almonds. So it's basically the same pistachio and almonds that you see here. Only difference is we're roasting and packaging those products there in India. And in fact, we're coming up with some flavored items that is more suitable to the Indian palate. Not probably as spicy as you'd like them to be, though. We'll still work on that. This is just a shot of our plant in India. And what's interesting about India for us is this is the first time that we've really forward integrated into a market and actually built a plant. And part of that was we thought we needed to be closer to the market, and having the product roasted there and fresh, we thought was more suitable to the market. This is our product lineup. So again, when you're back there shopping in Delhi, please look for these. This is just a shot of, if you kind of studied Indian retail and consumer snacking, about 97% of the snacks go through traditional trade, not the modern trade like the Walmarts that you see here. What we find is being in the modern trade is a great marketing vehicle for us to help get us into the traditional trade. So we've launched a test campaign in Bangalore. So this is a big billboard alongside one of the big malls in Bangalore. And one of the things we recognized, and I remember this back from my days in India, is the Indians get more wealthy and are more successful. You see more problems with obesity and the diseases that affect quote unquote rich countries. And we recognize that pistachios again are a healthy snack, and so we work closely with Dr. Mishra, who runs the Diabetes Foundation in India, to actually do some studies with the Indian physiology and within the Indian diet to demonstrate that pistachios are a healthy snacking choice and can actually help you improve your lipid profile. And when I met with Dr. Mishra, he was, I'll say, pleasantly surprised by the findings that he found when we substituted pistachios for some other snacks. And we're continuing to do some work in India. So this is just kind of part of our marketing campaign. I admit it's kind of part of it is just to educate people and learn about the healthy benefits of pistachios. Part of it is, of course, we're hoping that people change their diets. So Gunjan mentioned that one of the benefits we have as a private company is we can move very quickly, and given the success of the Resnicks, they have plenty of capital available. So I remember coming back from Gunjan and my trip there, and I was explaining to Stuart Resnick what I saw and kind of that chart on the almond market versus the pistachio market. And I said to him, I said, Stuart, this sounds a little dreamy, but what if we put a plant there, and what if we hired some salespeople? What if we formed our own company, and spent a couple $1 million doing this, and then started to invest in the marketplace? And I just remember him saying, just as clear as I worked for GE for 20 years, and in GE I'd put together PowerPoint presentations that would go to my boss, that would then go to his boss, and then would go to the CEO, depending on the nature of the topic. Literally within a 5-minute discussion, Stuart said, it sounds like a good idea, let's do it. So that's what I love about working in a private company and in an entrepreneurial environment. And then for me, not being the entrepreneur, it's just fun to work in a company where things move quickly and you can make quick decisions and be successful. That's all I had, Gunjan. My voice got better. That's like a miracle.
I want you to add a couple of points here. My voice is carrying okay, right? When we work with Mark and his company and we look at the Indian pistachio market, the traditional sellers of Indian pistachios from Iran, believe in the way that you make profit is you add a little bit of moisture, you add a lot of salt to the pistachios. So all of a sudden, what used to weigh 100 grams now weighs 115 grams, and that's what you sell. Paramount absolutely refused to do any of that. We are going to sell the same quality product in India as we use in the rest of the world. And yes, it costs a little bit more, but it's what's best, for consumers. And that commitment to quality is something that I think is a lesson so many American companies could take when they go to India, that you don't have to compromise on what you do just because you are going to be selling into that market. Nixon mentioned that I was quoted in the Financial Times about India's defense procurement process. And there again, I think the same logic applies. The Indian consumer, whether it's the Indian consumer or the Indian government or Indian companies, they're looking for world-class products and they're not willing to compromise or sacrifice on that. The quick decision making that Mark talked about, I think, is another real terrific characteristic of private companies. Those of you who have a chance as entrepreneurs to serve large public companies or mid-sized or small private companies, you'll find that things happen so quickly. I remember that meeting, Mark, when we went up to Stuart to present. He called us up an hour ahead of schedule. We were done in 5 minutes, and I came down and I asked him, okay, now when is the real presentation? Because it happened so quickly and it was done. Yeah, okay, fine. We're going to spend $2 to $5 million, no big deal. Okay. I think there's a lot of lessons there for the entrepreneurs in the room to keep in mind as you approach the markets. But I want to give a chance to anybody in the audience who has questions for Mark.
How did you get your market data about almond and pistachio market shares?
Yeah, it's a combination of data, both Indian import data as well as California export data. The California export data is readily available, and then because some products are traded through Hong Kong and Dubai, looking also kind of triangulating on the Indian import data. Actually, the size of the Indian market in almonds is even bigger than what I showed there, because it also includes almonds from Australia and then stuff that's transshipped through Dubai.
What portion of the market do you guys produce right now?
In the pistachios in India, we're probably about 30% of the market, and if you look at the branded pistachios, we're probably 50% of the market. I would challenge anybody to go in a modern retail store there and not find our product. Or if you do, please let me know. Or if you don't find it, please let me know.
And then as a follow-up to that, do you have the capacity to produce right now?
Yeah, we do. We're continuing to expand. So the picture that I showed in here was our first pilot plant at a leased building, and we're now moving that this summer. And because what we're finding is because still, unfortunately, so much of the demand is around Diwali that we have to really be able to do that, and now we have to expand facilities to do that. And plus, we've recently added almonds to the mix that we didn't have before.
Break up what people want out from
always in my mind, everywhere people have money. So with our pistachios, we have an office in Europe, we have an office in Shanghai, Hong Kong, the Indian operation, we're in Dubai, we're in Mexico, Mexico City, and Brazil. So I mean, the great thing about pistachios is people love them everywhere. And so, Gunjan talked about our sales success, and really one of the, I'd say, early opportunities that I saw is we really had more of a domestic focus, which was great. I mean, the U.S. market is still our biggest market, but markets around the world were kind of the opportunity. No, we really set up our own thing, and that takes some time and energy. And I think we're kind of 3 years into it, and we've in some other markets we go through distributors, but in India it's all our wholly owned operation. And so we've got 50 salespeople. The CEO there is an Indian guy, and we don't have a partner. We set it up all on our own. So I guess from my Godrej days and my first experience in India, and actually that was a partnership that didn't work out too well. I just felt like if we hired the right people, we could get the right operation going. And it's taken some time, but I feel that it's definitely the best thing. Please.
Somebody else making a comment on the voice about that. Is it about that?
Because of what?
Is it about that?
The spicy rice.
Oh, it must be. Or the pistas, I don't know.
My question is, did you have to compromise on the pricing structure in India? Are you confident in India?
Right now, we need a little bit more volume, and it's my projection that we talk in crop years, which run September through August. So our next crop year starts this fall. It's my projection that we'll be break even next year. And then our vision is to then take any profit that we're making in India and put that back into marketing. That's what I want to do. Yes. Well, I think that Gunjan kind of talked about it a little bit. One is we've set up a national sales and distribution network. Nobody else has done that. And when you're in the nut business, when you're in the packaged part of the nut, we're fundamentally a grower. So we can afford to invest in marketing and developing markets. If you're just a person that's buying and reselling pistachios, putting them in package, there's not a lot of profit margin there. So we've been able to, I'll say, take some losses while we invest in the market. That's why this year it's going to be break even. And once I start making some money there, it's my hope to put that back into market. It's pretty difficult for, I think, I'll call it a typical Indian nut entrepreneur to do that. So we've had an advantage. Please.
The skill set that you developed at GE help you or apply to this current career that you have? Because it seems like totally different. Is it a little bit of kind of starting from scratch?
That's a great question. I think some good things, some bad things, or some things that you need to just get rid of. With GE, although I'm an engineer by training, I was on GE's corporate audit staff, so call it pretty good with numbers. My boss is really good with numbers. So I think that experience has helped me a lot. And I think that, I'll say the sales and marketing experience that I got at GE, some of it is transferable. But the notion that, I remember my first day at Paramount Farms, I'm standing in an orchard of pistachio trees looking up at the California sunshine and admiring the fresh air. And I didn't do that at GE. And it just brought to me a new sensation of what a great product this is and how exciting it is. And frankly, it was inspiring for me. So, and what I've always said too, nothing against GE, but my worst day at Paramount Farms is better than some of my best days at GE. So, please.
So one of the challenges that I've come across in dealing with companies from India is that they really push you down on price.
Yeah.
So let's say a national chain store like Bazaar comes to you and says,
You're not with one of those guys, are you?
"We're going to buy 100,000 units." I mean, can
we hold the line. And the guy, I won't mention his name because somebody might try to steal him from me. The guy I have in India is our sales leader. I think he's really good. I think he's brilliant. And I think he makes very good commercial calls, and we hold the line. You know, I mean, we'll if we take money and give it to the trade, we want to get something in return. And that's kind of true everywhere in the world. Of course, you know, some companies in India are pretty aggressive with that on the one hand. On the other hand, you know, when they see across the street that somebody's being successful with your product, you know, just you gotta be able to say no, essentially, which is true in most negotiations.
Now that you have a network to market your product, and it's a new product,
Yes.
you don't grow. Are you thinking of adding something like, for example, avocado from California into that market? Because India being a kind of vegetarian, more people, less protein in their food, like non-meat eaters, avocado would be a nice product.
It would be. Do you grow avocados? No. We're fundamentally growers of pistachios and almonds and pomegranates and citrus. So that's how we make money. So that's really our focus. But you're right. I mean, we do have a strong sales and distribution and a brand there. But we've got so much work to do on growing those products that's really our singular focus.
So if I was an avocado farmer and I said 100% California,
Yeah.
I could share your network?
I'm welcome. You're welcome. I'd love to introduce you to people and all this, and learn our model. I can share that.
I can show a 5 minutes presentation.
Okay, we'll take one more question maybe. Anyone?
Well,
Right over there, lady has a question.
Please.
It is funny, I was in India at the party time and I saw Karishma Kapoor there and almond from California.
Yeah.
What is this? Everybody has almond from California. So it was so funny, looking at it. She's like, I said, who's selling almond from California here?
Karishma Kapoor. She was she was a spokesperson for us for the Almond Board. So actually, although the partnership with Karishma was great, we're kind of moving away from that. But anyway, hey, Gunjan, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here this evening.